Well, here we are, and it is late on a Saturday night, and I was thinking about some of the things that we're having to deal with these days, um, and especially the shootings down in Texas, which is really what I want to talk about for a few moments. And I've waited this long to say something about it because the truth is, considering the way the news media is, and really constraints of what it takes to get information. The truth is, it takes about 5 days before you're ever going to find out what really actually happened. And it's been a little over 5 days. And looking at this, you've heard the same old of people calling for gun control. I saw the actor Jon Voight, who's about as staunch a Republican as there is, and he's calling for gun control. So we're all getting, well, not me, but a lot of people are just plain getting fooled by it, as is always. Because the truth of the matter is, nothing's going to be done and nothing's going to be fixed. Because if you want to fix something, you've got to identify what the problem is, and then you've got to do the things that actually fix the problem. That seems obvious, but no one seems to be doing it. The sad thing about so much of this is that in actuality, this is a rather solvable problem. It would cost a lot, but I don't think anyone would argue over spending the money if it got a solution. But I keep hearing the same thing from a lot of people, and that is, we got to do something. Well, no, we don't got to do something. We got to do something that works. Does anyone think gun control is actually going to work? Someone will probably say to that, well, it can't hurt. Yeah, it really can hurt. I think the reason why people are so shocked by this is because it's really quite rare. That will probably get some people ticked off. They say, do you know how many occurred? Well, I don't have the exact number. What I do know this is far more people were killed in Chicago last year than in mass shootings and school shootings. And yet no one says anything about that, because sadly, what happens in Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, Portland, or Seattle, that's just normal. And people gotten to the point where they're just used to it, so they don't say anything anymore about it, unfortunately. But it is far more common, and no one does anything about that. Yet these places I just mentioned have lots of gun control. So how is that going to solve anything? And looking at what we've seen, this isn't as much a gun issue as is a catastrophic failure of a system that was supposed to protect against this kind of thing. Now that's important to remember, because if you want gun control, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to pass a law. If you pass that law, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to enforce it. And that means by enforcing it, you're going to have to make sure that no one gets through. Well, you just watch the very people who would be a large part of administrating all this utterly fail at everything that they ever have done. So how exactly is gun control going to work when we've just watched the people that are supposed to be in charge of it show an utter catastrophic incompetence about the whole thing? Oh, you can pass a law all you want, but we've just seen that people enforcing it aren't going to do their jobs. So how's gun control going to work? Answer, it's not going to work. So what do we do? Well, I'm here in the Nashville area, and I've had to go to a couple of schools every now and then. You go to a school here, you go up to the door, you have to push a button, there's a camera. You have to identify yourself, and they have to let you in. All the other doors are locked. They're not allowed to be open. You can easily leave if you need to escape, but you can't get in. So if you go through that front door, you go into a vestibule area, which means you've just went through one set of doors. There's another set of doors right in front of you, and they're locked. And the only way you can go through those doors is if someone lets you. But they don't. You have to actually go through the office to get there. And I think Nashville has school resource officers, basically armed people who are there to make certain that if anyone were to break in and were a threat, that they could go and put them down if they had to. Now, if you do that and you follow all of the rules that go with that security and follow the security measures, nobody's getting in and no children are getting killed. It would cost a lot to do. I think one of the numbers I saw was around $3 to $5 billion. But if it would stop killings, I think it'd be some of the best money we've ever spent. And I think most everyone would agree. But what am I watching? Well, I'm watching Democrats who are wanting to use this to go after guns. You know, to take guns away from the people who are not a threat to anybody. And then if you do that, what's going to happen afterwards? I saw one person mockingly say, "Oh, what are you going to do after if you take all the guns? What, you think they're going to use ball bats and machetes?" Yep, that's exactly what they'll do. Because that's what's happened in other countries that did what the Democrats want, which is get rid of all the weapons. The death rates didn't go down, their murder rates didn't go down. They just used a different form of weapon to do it. I'll repeat what I said. We don't need to do something. We need to do something that works. Nobody seems to be wanting to do something that works. The Democrats just want to get the guns. I saw Mitch McConnell tell one of his senators to open negotiations with the Democrats, blah, blah, blah. He's running for the hills, coward that he often is. And in the meantime, nothing's going to get done. And you're going to have more children killed. I hear over and over again, we got to make the tough decisions. We don't have to make tough decisions. Just spend the money, harden the security at these schools, and these things won't happen. It's that simple. It's that simple in practice, not that simple in politics. The teachers' unions don't want it. The Democrats don't want it. The media doesn't want it. And yet all these little children are going to die. The same way that all these people are going to die where you have large amounts of gun control in Chicago, San Francisco, New York, Seattle, Portland. All because some people are so afraid of guns that they're unwilling to do something that would actually work. That is the most heartbreaking part of all of this.